Hello and welcome to SAP on Microsoft Azure. My name is Holger Bruchelt, and in this video I want to talk about connecting the SAP Cloud Platform Enterprise Messaging with Azure Event Grid. At first I want to start talking quickly about the SAP Cloud Platform Enterprise Messaging Service. It's a fully managed cloud service that allows applications to communicate through asynchronous events with each other. These events can be business events from systems like S4HANA, SuccessFactors, SAP Concur, Cloud for Customers, and can be pushed to other applications using an event-driven architecture. The beauty here is that it's very well integrated in the different SAP business events. On the Microsoft side, we have a similar concept with the event grids. Obviously, Event Grid is very much integrated in different Microsoft event sources, blob storage, resource groups, events hubs, and so on, and allows you to push these events to different event handlers, like an Azure Function or a Service Bus or Logic Apps. So what I quickly want to show in this video is how we can actually react to events triggered from an SAP system, push these events to enterprise messaging, from enterprise messaging to the Azure Event Grid, and then from Event Grid we'll send the events to a Logic app, which then sends the data to Outlook. So it's a very simple scenario, but it shows how you can actually connect these two worlds. Keep in mind, this is a proof of concept. There are a few things that need to be hardened, but overall, this concept shows you how you can send events from SAP to the Microsoft environment. In my specific setup, I unfortunately don't have an S4HANA system or another native SAP system that I could use for a trigger. So instead of triggering the events directly in the SAP system, I'm just using the SAP Application Studio to call or to execute a simple HTTP request, which then creates the event in my enterprise messaging. So let's take a look. We will start in the SAP Cloud Platform cockpit. Here you can see I'm in my SAP account and I'll switch to the dev space. In the dev space, I can select the service marketplace and from there the enterprise messaging system. So the first thing is that we need to create a new instance. So I'll click on Instance, New Create, and go through this wizard. In the second step, in the Specify Parameters, I'll take the JSON template that's also available in GitHub. Then finally, I'll just enter an instance name, and my enterprise message instance is now available on the SAP Cloud Platform. So I can actually drill down, I can take a look at the instance, and I can open the dashboard. In the dashboard, you can see that currently I don't have any queues, obviously, so I can quickly click on queues and create a new queue which we'll use to send events to. In order to send events to the queues, we actually want to use the Business Application Studio from the SAP Cloud Platform. So I'll switch back to my SAP account, go to Subscription, and select the SAP Business Application Studio. In my case, I have already created a dev space, so I'll just select the basic dev space. And from the basic dev space, so from my Business Application Studio workspace, I want to clone the Git repository. So I click on Clone from Git, I'll paste the URL from the Git repository, and the cloning is done. So with this, I can actually open up the workspace. So I click on Open Workspace, select the Enterprise Message Event Grid folder that was created via GitHub. And in there, I can actually see there's a file called request.http. This file allows me to do HTTP requests, to issue HTTP requests. And I'll start with a very simple one, just calling the Microsoft.com URL. And you can see, obviously, there are a lot of headers that I get in return. So it looks like everything is working fine. So in order to send an actual event to our enterprise messaging instance, we need to obviously authenticate. And the authentication is done using secret keys. So at first, in the enterprise messaging instance, so in our enterprise messaging instance, I'll create a so-called service key. So I just navigate to service key, click on create service key. I'll just enter a name, and this key will be created. Now, if I scroll down here to the very bottom, then I have all the information that I need. So in the HTTP section, the first thing that I'll copy and paste is the client ID, the client secret, and here in my request.http file, I'll just replace the placeholders with the information from the service key here. In the end, what's happening is we'll call a token endpoint from this service key or from this enterprise messaging instance, and we'll ask for an access token. In the next step, once we have this access token, we'll actually publish the event. But first, we'll just copy and paste all these placeholders from the service key into our HTTP request file. So the last step is the queue name, which we also created, enterprise messaging queue, and that's it. With this, we can actually issue the next request. So this time it's a post request to our token endpoint. And you can see on the right-hand side that we get a long access token back. So that's what we need to post to our enterprise messaging instance. So for this, we can take the next request. And here I actually post the content to the enterprise messaging service. And you can see there's a 204 reply from the system, which means our message was accepted. If we head actually over to the queue, to the dashboard, you can see, well, right now the number is 0, but if I refresh the page, then I can see that now we have one message waiting in our queue. So with this, we're actually done for the time being on the SAP side, and we can switch over to Microsoft. So in Microsoft Azure, I'll first create an event grid. So just search for event grid here, select event grid topics, and then if you click on add, we can add a new topic, event grid topic. So I'll put this into a new resource group. So in Azure, we bundle all the resources in resource groups. I'll provide a name for the specific topic. And then it's very important that in the next step, we select the Cloud Events schema as the event schema for our event grid. That's very important because SAP Cloud Platform Enterprise Messaging sends the information via Cloud Events. And the enterprise or the event grid side on the Azure side also receives now or expects the schema as in Cloud Event schema. So the event grid is created, and now I can just go to the resource that was just created. The beautiful thing of this concept is that potentially now from event grid, I could send the event to a lot of different places on the Azure side. So Azure Functions, I could write it into a blob storage, into a storage account, and so on. What I want to do is I want to create a logic app that listens to events of this event grid and then performs a certain action. So I'll search for logic apps. I'll create a new logic app here. I just click on review and create and click on create again. And after a few seconds, I am ready and I am actually in the logic apps designer. So just wait for a few seconds. Let's go to the resource. And now I am in the Logic App Designer. So here we can listen to a lot of different triggers, a Twitter feed, a URL endpoint or something like that. But in my specific case, I'll start with a blank Logic Apps. And I'm looking for a trigger for event grids. So when a new resource is available in the event grid, then something should happen. Then this Logic App should be triggered. So I select here my subscription, the resource type, and also the resource name. So here you can see the event grid that we just created. And now I'm in the Logic App. So now the Logic Apps would be triggered. And in my simple scenario, I just want to send an email. So if there is a new event in event grid, an email should be sent via Office 365. So I'll just enter my email address, a subject. And now in the body field, that's actually where I can select from all the information that is available now from the previous step. So from this when a resource event occurs. So I'll just select the available fields, the item, the data objects, the body, and so on. I can format the email obviously a little, but that's basically it. I don't need to write one single line of code. There's one small thing that we need to change because we are using cloud events. We need to remove this onSplit command, because typically an event grid schema would expect an array, and in our specific case, it's just one entry, so no array. With this, we're done, and I can actually go to the event grid. I can take the endpoint of my event grid, and back in the enterprise messaging on the SAP Cloud Platform side, I can now create a webhook. So basically, if a new event comes into enterprise messaging, I want to use a webhook to send my event to the event grid on the Azure side. And here we come to the proof of concept point of this whole demo. Right now, in order to send events from enterprise messaging to Azure Event Grid, we need to authenticate via a SaaS token in the query parameter URL. So obviously this is something that you would not do in a productive environment, but still, in order to just showcase that this scenario could work, that we can connect enterprise messaging to Event Grid, that's what we are doing in this specific scenario now. So in the query, in the get parameter, we'll enter aeg-sas-key, and we'll take the access key, or one of the access keys from the event grid in Azure, and paste it there. Now, since there might be special characters, I'll use the URL encoder.org site to URL encode this key. And again, you would not do this with a productive key. You would not do this in a productive environment. Use a public site to URL encode this URL. But that's basically it. So now I can just create this webhook. By default, this is paused, so I'll need to activate it. And now with this webhook being activated, actually events in the queue are now forwarded to Azure. So if we take a look at the queue, you can see the number of messages in the queue is now 0. It was 1 before. And actually, if I go over to the Microsoft side, and if I take a look at the Logic app, you can see that one of the Logic apps already was triggered. We can actually drill down, we can take a look, you can see, so an event apparently occurred, and if I take a closer look at the content, you can see exactly the same information that I sent over from my Business Application Studio, or from this HTTP client. So I can just do this again, I'll update the data, and obviously if I go back to Azure, if I refresh the runs history, then I can see there's another Logic app, and yeah, obviously the content would be the same. Now, this was the trigger. So obviously, if we now check for emails, you can also see that there is now an email with all the content that we sent via HTTP. So I hope this quick demo gave you an idea, an impression of what you can do connecting SAP Cloud Platform Enterprise Messaging with Event Grid, and then obviously from there leveraging some of the other services that are available on Azure. If you want to give it a try, here are a few links. There's also a GitHub repository available with the steps explained in a little more detail, so just feel free to check it out. With this, thank you very much for watching, and please subscribe to our channel. Thank you.